over this summer, and I wanted to work on a sample instrument project of my own. Sampling is basically when you record an instrument in such a way that you can take the sound and put it into software so that you can use the sound of that instrument without needing to have the instrument physically with you all the time whenever you want to use it. So since this was the first time I was ever doing something like this, I wanted something with a small range, so not too many notes to keep track of, and also something preferably percussive, meaning that you hit the key and it's one sound and it's done, and you don't have to think about any sustains or legatos or anything long. So I found this on Facebook Marketplace and figured it would be perfect. Perfect, simple instrument. However, turns out I'm allergic to keeping things simple. I should have known. So we ended up with this, Prepared Toy Piano. If you just want to know what the sound is like, there's a link in the description. This is more of a documentation of the process and like a demystification of what it's like to do this as an amateur in a bedroom with borrowed equipment. So first off, what is prepared piano? It's basically when you stuff a bunch of things inside a piano to make it sound different. This is often done with things like cutlery, screws, rubber balls, but I needed something that wouldn't fall off these forks because they stand upright. So the first thing was to decapitate it and see what I actually could do inside. So this is where we are at this point. I also had to figure out what I was going to do about the noise because this is an extremely noisy instrument in real life. So for equipment, I had access to 4 mics. The first one is a CM25 condenser mic that comes in a bundle with the Scarlett 2i2, also from Facebook Marketplace, by the way. I had an SM57, which I borrowed. I also used the internal mics of a Zoom H4n field recorder. I also used a contact mic that went through a preamp that my friend actually built. It's really cool. This preamp box takes sound from a contact mic and cancels the noise and doubles the signal. It's very simple, very effective, and I love it. It was actually very important to me from the start of this process to have multiple mic perspectives, because something that I've heard a lot from my composer friends is that sometimes when you're using samples that other people are also using, it can really feel like your sound is not your own. I feel like it is not that uncommon of an experience as a composer to be listening to your friend's mock-up and suddenly you're just like, oh, I know that string sample, I know that drum sample, I use that drum sample too. And personally, I feel like having flexibility with your mic positions can really help with that. Everyone's preferences of mic placement and type is going to be slightly different, and so it gives you at least the illusion of choice. So, 4 mics. One of them I am currently using to record the sound of this video. So bear with me for a minute, I'm just gonna switch to my phone audio while I explain my setup. So I'm using this Zoom recorder. It's got 2 external mics here and you can plug more mics into it here. It records onto an SD card within the device. I'm also using this Scarlett 2i2, which is a pretty commonplace device. This has 2 inputs, so this means I was actually recording into 2 separate devices that were independent of each other. This was going into my computer, this was recording straight onto the SD card. So I had my condenser and contact mic plugged in here, and I had the SM57 plugged in here. I could not monitor them at the same time. Yes, this was annoying. Yes, this did almost lead to a disaster. Almost. Also, I don't think I made this clear. I had to manually sync up all the files. So setup-wise, I live in a very small space and I had to get creative. So I have 4 mics and 1 mic stand, so I'm gonna have to figure out something. I think my solution is I'm gonna use the laundry rack and just like suspend things from it, tie things to it. Let's see how it happens. Also, that is the blanket from my bed. Okay, this is the part that doesn't look nice on Instagram. We've got this condenser mic here. We've got this SM57 that's held up by a shirt and a sock. We've got this Zoom that's also held up by a sock, and the string that I'm using in the piano preparation, like the same yarn ball that I bought from the dollar store. And then at the back, well, you can see there's a wire going back there, right? Yeah, that little black circle there, that's the contact mic. It just comes out and it's going to this preamp, and then that's going to the Scarlett. The SM57 is going up here and into the Zoom, and then the Zoom also has its internal mics. This is for like room sound, because this is obviously a great recording room that we really want to capture the sound of. So that's the setup, and it's a mess, but it's okay. So the way that this works is that you have to record every single note multiple times. This is what that sounds like.
C3 round robin 1 1 2 3 4. Off round robin 2 1 2 3 4. Off round robin 3 1 2 3 4. Off C sharp 3 round robin 1 1 2 3 4. Off round robin 2 1, 2, 3, 4.
10 minutes of that into 4 into 5. Yeah, I did some test recordings and it's not no, and it's not as scary as I thought. I'm just really scared that something stupid is gonna go wrong and I'm not gonna even know until like it's too late. I did my recordings into Reaper because of the extremely useful region render matrix, which makes exporting things significantly easier than the other options that I tried. Here we are loud. I'm done with the vanilla one. It's time to start. I know I don't seem very excited because it's 5 a.m, but I'm actually quite excited for this. So now it's time to start preparing. My first object, as you saw, was knitting yarn. The nice thing about sampling this is that you will eventually be able to have the quality of this but without all the key noise. Next we had one of my favorite substances in the whole world, masking tape. So this is how it sounds. It's still muted, but it is brighter than the yarn sound. I kind of like it. So beyond this was actually unplanned territory. I knew that I wanted to do a third one, but I didn't actually know what it would be. I just thought I would figure it out as I went along. Okay, what did I just do? Didn't expect this to be the part of the process that would go wrong. So I had this vague idea of melting candle wax all over the forks and it was very dramatic. But unfortunately and disappointingly, it didn't actually affect the sound that much. It might have just been the fact that I was using a $1 candle, but what happened was the first note that I played would get affected. But then the hammer would actually cut through the wax and make it right back onto the metal of the fork, and so it would just sound like the regular sound. It didn't sound any different, which was unexpected and kind of sad because I really wanted that one to work. So then I tried a few other things. I tried foil. I tried parchment paper. Neither of them sounded particularly interesting. I tried paper towels, which actually completely muted the sound. Didn't make any sound at all. Then I remembered that I had these rubber wristbands that some random companies were handing out at Pride the day before. They actually ended up working pretty nicely, so I went with that. So my original plan when I started out was to have 3 preparation flavors. However, I hit an equipment limitations roadblock. I just realized today that the SM57 I was using, the XLR cable might not have been working for the last day. I have no clue, so I may just have to do the masking tape and yarn one possibly again. So I had to actually be mentally preparing to start from scratch on some of these. Keep in mind, I was doing this at night after full working days. I live in a very small space and I had to have this ridiculous setup in the middle of my room for half a week. It had the blanket of my bed that I couldn't take back. I had to teach my online classes without my regular equipment. Also, I had to switch off my fridge whenever I recorded, and I was constantly stressed about what would happen to my food. I really wanted to take this whole setup down today. It's been like this for a couple of days now. It's starting to get dusty on the floor. I really want to clean, but obviously I cannot because there's all these cables. At this point, I've just been doing this so long and things have just been going wrong and I'm just so done. This was getting annoying. I wasn't sure if I would actually have the mental capacity to redo anything from scratch. So I came up with a contingency plan because doing something new was likely to be more exciting to me and motivating to finish than to redo an old thing that failed. So I ended up having a 4th flavor, which was sticky tack, the stuff that you use to stick pictures on walls. And I'm really hoping that the hammers are not going to actually stick on it, but that might also be funny. Let's see. We're almost done. So close. So close, come on. I'm done. What I'm really scared of is having to do the whole masking tape thing again because of the SM57. The time has come to see if it actually worked. Quickly skimming through this, it looks like masking tape is the one that has died. Here everything looks really normal. Here is where it like just stops working, which isn't the worst that could have happened. I was really worried that the yarn one would also be screwed up, but it's apparently not. So okay, I took a couple of hours off and now it's time to just redo the masking tape version of this. Then I'm done. I can hear the fridge. I need to switch it off. Rip. Did you hear that? This is done. Okay, so like there's all this mess on the floor. I'm gonna clean up because that will make me feel much better when I wake up tomorrow. I have a full work day tomorrow. Fun. Somehow, I don't know how, it turns out I was actually able to pull through with doing masking tape again. I think I was preparing for the worst, expecting it to be masking tape and yarn. The fact that it was just masking tape was like, okay, it's fine, I can do one more. But either way, I ended up with a total of 5 textures. Next up was the organizing and export. I did this in Reaper. I found this very useful SWS plugin action, which lets you convert markers to regions. And since I already had my markers placed, I could just convert them to regions and shift the borders to make sure that the samples were exactly in the right place. This process did take very long because I manually adjusted all the borders to make sure that they were exactly right. Because obviously I did not play 100% on click every single time. I just had to make sure that all of them were placed properly, with no gaps, empty spaces, extra outside noises. So you see this whole noise? This whole noise is me suddenly realizing that the fridge was on and jumping up and running to unplug it before the next sample started. And there were actually some places during recording where I lost concentration and would play the wrong note, and so I would have to like redo it at the end and then copy paste those from the end of the session back into where they were supposed to be. Since I was recording onto 2 independent devices, if I made a mistake, stopping wasn't an option because I would have to go right to the beginning of the session again because otherwise it would be impossible to sync up the files. So whenever I made a mistake, I had to basically keep a note of it and play all of those mistake notes again at the end and then take them from the end of the session and put them in the place they were supposed to be at. There were some, especially in the very soft layers, where like you press the key but actually no sound came out, so I would have to do it again. So I would have to shift the region to make sure that it accommodated for that. Reaper does have an automatic slicer tool that cuts your file based on the transients, but some of them were like so soft that it couldn't detect it very well, and also I just personally didn't trust it. I just needed to go through all of those things myself because I knew that there was a lot of room for error, and if an error did happen, it would be very difficult and time consuming to find after the export. Because as mildly annoying as this was to do in Reaper, if I did it in Kontakt, it would have been exponentially more annoying. So basically once the borders were set, I could export all the files from each mic at a time. Also, this is how my folder hierarchy was set up, in case you're interested. So I ended up with a total of this many files. I don't actually remember the number, but it's more than 5,000. This is because there's like 5 flavors, textures, whatever you want to call them, 4 mic positions, and 4 velocity layers, which basically is like, I've seen it described as volume, but it's not really volume, it's more like intensity. Like if you record yourself screaming and then play it back at a very soft volume, it's never going to sound like you're whispering, no matter how soft you play it back. Because it's not really about the volume, it's about the intensity and quality of the sound. So having multiple velocity layers makes it feel a bit more like you're actually playing, because when you press the key softly, a soft sound comes out, and when you press the key hard, then a hard sound comes out. I'm editing and I just realized that I didn't make it clear why there's so many files. It's because the instrument has 25 keys, so 25 notes, each one recorded 3 times, into 4 velocity layers, into 4 mic positions, and then 5 textures of the piano. So the math isn't perfect on that because one of them has a smaller range, but it's like approximately there. That's why there's that many files. Also, I should have probably explained this before, but the way that this whole thing works is that every time you press a key, The software is playing a tiny audio file, which was what this whole recording process was about. I would record each note, and then it's set up so that all the files are attached to their respective notes. So then we got to the scripting stage, and this is the stage where I really fell into an imposter syndrome because I have so much to learn, it's not even funny. I also had to design the user interface, which was fun because I know nothing about design or art or photography or anything visual media. Can't do it. So I can't draw, and I'm pretending to be able to draw using Adobe Fresco's smoothing tool. I just spent 20 minutes drawing this dot. So at the end of all of that, we ended up with this weird monster of an instrument called Prepared Toy Piano. It's available for Kontakt on Piano Book. It's free, so if you use Kontakt, please download it, give it a try, tell me what you think. This was more like a, I don't know, behind the scenes weird nonsense documentation situation. Again, I'm very new to this and I was just scraping by, so I hope this was like informative or helpful or something, maybe. Or maybe you just enjoyed laughing at my bad decisions. Either way, thank you for watching, and I hope that I can do this again.